As they talked, Ambassador Zrektai approached their group. The Valerian diplomat had changed much in the past year. Like many of his species, he had decorated his exoskeleton with soft fabric strips that made touching more comfortable for both parties. "Captain Sanders," the ambassador clicked respectfully. "The Alliance Council has prepared a special ceremony before your departure." The crew followed Zrektai to the station's great hall. It was filled with beings from dozens of worlds, all gathered to bid farewell to the humans who had changed their understanding of communication. In the center of the hall stood the Valerian High Council, their ornate exoskeletons gleaming under the lights. The lead counselor stepped forward as Sanders and his crew arrived. "1 year ago, we found human touching habits strange and concerning," the counselor clicked. "Today, we recognize them as a gift to the galaxy." The counselor extended a limb toward Sanders. But instead of offering the traditional Valerian greeting, the alien placed its appendage on Sanders' shoulder and patted it twice. A cheer went up from the crowd at this display. The gesture, so simple for humans, but so meaningful coming from a Valerian, symbolized how much had changed. After the ceremony, the crew returned to their ship. As they prepared for departure, Engineer Johnson noticed a strange object in the science lab, a small crystal formation that pulsed with inner light. "What's this?" he asked, reaching out to touch it. "Careful," Wright called, but it was too late. Johnson's fingers had already stroked the smooth surface of the crystal. The formation immediately began to glow brighter, and patterns of light danced across its surface. The colors shifted and pulsed in complex arrangements. Alliance scientists rushed over with scanners, their eyes wide with excitement. "It's responding to your touch," exclaimed a Dorian researcher. "We thought it was just a mineral sample, but it appears to be a silicon-based life form." Johnson looked sheepish but continued gently stroking the crystal, which was now emitting a soft humming sound. "What can I say? If it looks petable, humans are going to pet it." As the U.S. Horizon departed for Earth, carrying representatives from across the galaxy, the story of the touch-loving humans spread to even more worlds. Many species still found the human habit strange, but increasingly they also found it wonderful. Whisper, watching the stars streak by from the observation deck, sang a soft melody that all could understand. The universe is vast and often cold, but wherever humans go, they reach out and make connections. They will pet anything, and in doing so, they touch hearts across the stars. 1 year had passed since the U.S. Horizon first made contact with the Valerians. The ship now rested in Docking Bay 1 of Convergence Station, ready for its journey back to Earth. The crew was busy making final preparations, but this time they would not be traveling alone. Captain Sanders stood in the main cargo bay, watching as Alliance representatives boarded the ship. There were Valerians with their clicking mandibles, Dorians with their 4 arms, Zaxians with their colorful scales, and many others. Each species was sending a diplomat to Earth to establish formal relations. "Nervous about going home?" Commander Garcia asked as he joined Sanders. "A little," Sanders admitted. "We left Earth as explorers. We're returning with an entire galactic delegation." Among the alien diplomats was Whisper, now serving as the official Morzad ambassador. The small creature's fur glowed with excited pink swirls as it scampered up Engineer Miller's arm to perch on her shoulder. "Whisper's already packed 3 times, Miller said with a laugh. "I've never seen anyone so excited about a trip." Dr. Martinez approached with a data tablet. "The touch therapy centers we helped establish are now operating on 22 worlds," she reported. "The results are remarkable." The therapy centers had been Martinez's idea. After studying the Morzat and other touch-dependent species, she realized that many beings across the galaxy were suffering from what she called touch deprivation. Even species that did not require touch for communication often benefited from appropriate physical contact. The Lorvians report a 40% decrease in stress-related illnesses, she continued. And the underwater beings on Aquas 9 have developed new art forms now that they're not hiding their true nature. Lieutenant Wright entered the cargo bay with Kreetol at her side. The Zaxian would be joining them on the journey to Earth as part of their ongoing research. The latest results from our study are exciting, Wright said. We've identified 27 previously overlooked species that use some form of tactile communication. Lieutenant Powell joined them, holding a thick book with a shiny cover. Fresh off the printer, he announced. The first copy of Dr. Martinez's Tactile Theory of Galactic Communication. Martinez accepted the book with a smile. I never thought my field notes would become required reading for Alliance diplomats. 2 weeks after the rescue mission, news about the humans and the Morzat had spread throughout the Galactic Alliance. On dozens of worlds, beings of all shapes and sizes were talking about the same thing. Humans will pet anything. What had started as a curious observation had become a cultural phenomenon. Lieutenant Natalie Wright could hardly walk through Convergence Station without being approached by aliens wanting to discuss human touching habits. Is it true that humans touch each other's head fur as a sign of affection? A curious Dorian asked her one morning. Wright smiled. We call it hair, and yes, many humans enjoy having their hair stroked or played with. The Dorian's 4 hands moved in a gesture of amazement. Fascinating. On my world, the head is considered too personal for casual contact. In another part of the station, Lieutenant Chris Powell and his Zaxian friend Kree had established the first cross-species research team studying tactile communication. They had converted a small lab into what Powell jokingly called the petting zoo, a space where willing participants could experiment with appropriate forms of touch across species. The key is consent and understanding boundaries. Powell explained to a group of Alliance scientists. Some species find certain types of touch painful, while others find them pleasant. Kree nodded. For example, Zaxians prefer firm pressure on our back scales, but light touches feel like painful tickles. Across the station, resistance was forming too. A group of traditionalist species held their own meetings, led by an elderly Valerian named Zrekve. Physical contact leads to disorder, Zrekve clicked to his followers. For millennia, advanced species have evolved beyond the need for primitive touching. But their protests were losing ground as more beings experimented with consensual touch. Even some younger Valerians were trying careful antenna touches as greetings. Meanwhile, the rescued Morzat had been sharing ancient knowledge with Dr. Martinez. They revealed locations of other touch-dependent species who had hidden their true nature or been misunderstood by the Alliance. There's an entire underwater civilization on Aquas 9, Martinez reported to Captain Sanders. The locals thought they were non-sentient because they communicate through a combination of touch and electrical signals. Sanders shook his head in wonder. How many civilizations have been overlooked because they don't communicate the way most Alliance species do? The Morzat had become unofficial ambassadors, helping to bridge these communication gaps. Their ability to translate touch-based communication into telepathic images that even non-tactile species could understand proved invaluable. Human diplomatic teams were suddenly in high demand throughout the Alliance. Their natural comfort with physical contact made them perfect intermediaries for touch-dependent species. In the Alliance Council chamber, Captain Sanders addressed the assembled representatives. The room was more crowded than usual, with delegates from newly discovered civilizations attending for the first time. For too long, the galaxy has defined intelligence and civilization by specific communication methods, Sanders said. But sentience comes in many forms. Some beings speak through sound, others through light or chemistry or touch. He gestured to where Whisper sat on Engineer Miller's shoulder, fur glowing a confident gold. The Morzat hid their true nature for centuries because they feared being exploited. How many other species have we misunderstood or overlooked because they don't communicate like we do? A murmur ran through the chamber as delegates considered his words. Earth is proud to join the Galactic Alliance, Sanders continued, and we bring with us what might seem like a simple trait, our willingness to connect through touch. But sometimes the simplest things can build the strongest bridges. After the speech, many delegates approached Sanders to express support. Even some who had initially found human touching habits disturbing were beginning to see their value. Later that evening, Wright met with Kree to discuss expanding their research program. "We've received requests from 17 worlds," the Zaxian said excitedly. "Species that have been isolated for generations are asking for human touch interpreters." Wright smiled. "Who would have thought our habit of petting everything would become our greatest diplomatic asset?" As they talked, a message arrived from Earth. The United Nations had approved the creation of a new diplomatic corps specializing in tactile communication. They were calling it the Touching Initiative. Kree scales shimmered with amusement. "Soon the entire galaxy will know what we have learned. When humans see something new and interesting, they simply cannot keep their hands to themselves." The Swift returned to Convergence Station with its precious cargo of freed Morzet. News of the rescue spread quickly. Crowds gathered to watch as the colorful creatures followed the humans from the docking bay, their fur shifting through rainbow hues as they sang their melodious songs. In a large meeting room, Dr. Olivia Martinez sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by Morzet. The small creatures curled against her legs or perched on her shoulders. Every time she touched one, images and feelings flowed into her mind. "This is incredible," she told Captain Sanders. "They're sharing their history with me." The oldest Morzet, whose fur had silvery streaks, pressed its head against Martinez's hand. A flood of memories washed over her. Ancient Morzet, living in harmony with other species, then fear as hunters came, and finally the decision to hide their true nature. "They've been pretending to be simple animals for centuries," Martinez explained to the Alliance Council members who had gathered to observe. "They feared exploitation because of their telepathic abilities." Lieutenant Wright, who had been examining the Morzet's biological readings, looked up from her scanner. "Their brain activity increases dramatically when touched. Physical contact amplifies their telepathic abilities." The Valerian Council member clicked thoughtfully. "Our species evolved to minimize physical contact. We may have unintentionally been blocking their communication." A small Morzet approached the Valerian, looking up with large, expressive eyes. After a moment's hesitation, the insectoid alien extended a limb. The Morzet gently pressed its head against the Valerian's exoskeleton. The alien's compound eyes widened in surprise. "I feel its thoughts," the Valerian said with wonder. "But the connection is weak compared to what they share with humans." Commander Garcia had been quiet until now. "Humans are naturally tactile. We communicate through touch from birth. Perhaps that makes us more receptive to their telepathy." Whisper, who had stayed close to Engineer Miller throughout the mission, began a complex song. The other Morzet joined in, creating a harmony that filled the room. Even without direct contact, everyone present felt waves of information flowing from the creatures. "They're showing us something important," Martine said, eyes closed in concentration. "The Morzet are not the only touch-dependent species in the galaxy." Images formed in the minds of everyone present. Dozens of different life forms across many planets, all needing physical contact for proper development and communication. Some had been misunderstood or even shunned because of this need. "For all our technological advancement," Sanders said quietly, "the Alliance has overlooked something basic: the importance of touch." The silver-streaked Morzet approached Sanders and touched his hand. A clear thought transferred. "Your kind understands without words. You touch to connect, to comfort, to show care. This is rare and precious." Dr. Martinez translated this for the Council. "The Morzet believe humans have a natural gift that much of the galaxy has lost: the instinct to connect through touch." The Council members discussed this revelation among themselves. The Lorvian representative, whose fur had been petted by Engineer Johnson days earlier, spoke up. "I propose we establish formal diplomatic relations with the Morzet, with humans as intermediaries. Their touching nature may be exactly what is needed." Commander Garcia stepped forward. Earth would be honored to help build this bridge. Later that evening, the human crew gathered in their quarters. Whisper and several other Morzet had chosen to stay with them, rather than in the special habitat the station had prepared. Everything we know about galactic relations is changing, Wright said as she gently stroked a young Morzat that had fallen asleep on her lap. All because we can't keep our hands to ourselves. Miller laughed. Humans will pet anything. Who knew that would be our superpower? Dr. Martinez was reviewing her notes on Morzat communication. Their society is built on touch. They form family bonds, share knowledge, and even heal each other through physical contact. That's not so different from us, Sanders observed. We just forgot how important touch can be. As the humans continued their discussion, none of them noticed how their own casual touches, a pat on the shoulder, a handshake, the brushing of fingers when passing objects, were being carefully observed and studied by the Alliance scientists monitoring their quarters. The Morzat knew, though. They watched with their color-changing eyes and sang softly to each other. The humans will remind the galaxy what it has forgotten. The time of separation is ending. Captain Eric Sanders stood before the Alliance Council, his uniform crisp and formal. Beside him, Engineer Diane Miller held the small Morzat, which the humans had named Whisper for its musical communications. The Drakari have confirmed they have more Morzat captives, Sanders explained. They're being held at an outpost in the Cygnus sector. The council chamber was filled with representatives from many worlds. Some floated in tanks of liquid, others stood on platforms adjusted for their height. They all watched the small creature in Miller's arms with new interest. We must recover them, said the Dorian counselor, all four of his arms gesturing dramatically. The Morzat are a protected species. The Valerian representative clicked in agreement. But the outpost is in disputed territory. An official Alliance mission could start a war. Then send us, Sanders offered. We're new to the Alliance. The Drakari can't claim we represent everyone. After much discussion, the Council agreed. Sanders would leave a small team. Lieutenant Natalie Wright for her xenobiology expertise, Officer Heather Rodriguez for security, and Dr. Olivia Martinez to communicate with any rescued Morzat. As they prepared the mission, Wright spent time studying Whisper. The small creature never strayed far from Miller. Its fur changes color with its emotions, Wright noted, watching as Whisper's coat shifted from content blue to excited purple when Miller scratched behind its ears. And the singing seems to project feelings. Miller nodded. I think that's how they communicate. When I pet Whisper, I can almost understand what it's thinking. The team departed on a small, fast ship called the Swift. They traveled 3 days to reach the Drakari outpost, a jagged structure built into an asteroid. Sensors show minimal security, Rodriguez reported. They aren't expecting trouble. Sanders nodded. We go in quietly. Our goal is to free the Morzat, not start a fight. They docked at the outpost, claiming to be traders interested in exotic goods. The Drakari guards were suspicious, but allowed them entry after they offered valuable earth spices as gifts. Inside, they split into pairs. Wright and Rodriguez headed to the lower levels where captives would likely be held, while Sanders and Martinez created a distraction in the trading hall. In a dimly lit corridor, Wright's scanner picked up unusual energy readings. Similar to Whispers, she whispered to Rodriguez, "Through that door." They bypassed the lock and entered a large room filled with cages. Inside each cage was a Morzat, their fur dull gray with misery, their musical voices silent. There are dozens of them, Rodriguez said, shocked. A Drakari guard spotted them and reached for his weapon. But Rodriguez was faster. She stunned him with her energy pistol before he could raise an alarm. The captive Morzat trembled in fear at the commotion. Wright approached the nearest cage. "It's okay," she said softly, opening the cage door. "We're friends of Whisper." The Morzat backed away, terrified. Wright remembered how Miller had gained Whisper's trust. Slowly, she extended her hand into the cage, palm up, and waited. The Morzat stared at her hand, then cautiously crept forward. When it was close enough, Wright gently stroked its head. The creature froze, then gradually leaned into her touch. Its fur shifted from gray to a tentative yellow. "That's it," Wright encouraged. You're safe now. One by one, they opened the cages. Rodriguez stood guard while Wright patiently gained each Morzet's trust with gentle touches. Some took longer than others, but eventually, all were freed. How do we transport them all? Rodriguez whispered. Wright was about to answer when the freed Morzet began to sing together. The harmonious sound filled the room, and images formed in the humans' minds. The Morzet could move through the station on their own if the path was clear. They're not just pets, Wright realized. They're highly intelligent. Sanders and Martinez joined them, having secured their escape route. The doctor was amazed by the Morzet's communication. They're telepathic, Martine said, using their song to share thoughts and feelings. As they prepared to leave, alarms sounded. Drakari guards rushed toward their location. We need to hurry, Sanders urged. The freed Morzets surrounded the humans, their fur now glowing bright blue. When the Drakari guards appeared, the Morzets sang a sharp, painful note that made the avian aliens clutch their heads in agony. They're protecting us, Wright said in wonder. Together, humans and Morzet made their way back to the Swift. As they escaped the outpost, the Morzet gathered around Wright, their fur shimmering with gratitude. One small Morzet climbed onto her shoulder and nuzzled her cheek. The touch conveyed a simple message directly to her mind. Thank you for your gentle hands. Alarms blared throughout the Convergence station. Red lights flashed in the corridors as a voice announced over the speakers. Alert Level 2. All non-security personnel, please return to your quarters. Captain Sanders and his team gathered in their meeting room. A holographic display showed a large ship approaching the station. Drakari warship, Ambassador Zrektai explained, mandibles clicking nervously. They are a predatory avian species, aggressive and territorial. What do they want? Commander Garcia asked. They claim we have violated their space. The Valerian's antennae twitched. It is not true, but they often create excuses for conflict. The communication screen lit up, showing the face of the Drakari commander. The alien looked like a cross between an eagle and a lizard, with sharp teeth and feathers that shimmered like metal. Convergence station. The Drakari hissed. You have 40 standard minutes to surrender the fugitive you are harboring, or we will open fire. Ambassador Zrektai looked confused. We harbor no fugitives from Drakari space. Lies. The commander's feathers flared. Our sensors detect the energy signature of a stolen Morzet on your station. Chief Engineer Diane Miller stood off to the side, listening carefully. The Alliance representatives seemed genuinely confused by the accusation. We will meet to discuss this claim, Zrektai offered. Please dock at Bay 22. The screen went dark. The ambassador turned to the humans. I must attend this meeting. The Drakari are dangerous but value proper procedures. Captain Sanders, would you and one representative join me? The Drakari should see that the Alliance has powerful new allies. 20 minutes later, Sanders, Miller, and Ambassador Zrektai sat across from the Drakari commander and two guards in a conference room. The avian aliens were even more intimidating in person, standing over 7 feet tall with powerful clawed hands and sharp beaks. We have searched our records, Zrektai said calmly. We have no Morzet registered on this station. The Drakari commander slammed his fist on the table. Your records are incomplete. The energy signature is unmistakable. As the argument continued, Engineer Miller noticed something moving under the commander's chair. At first, she thought it was a shadow, but then she saw tiny eyes glinting in the light. Without thinking, Miller slid from her chair and knelt down. Under the table was a small creature, about the size of a house cat, but with 8 legs and a body covered in downy fur that shifted colors like an octopus. It was trembling, clearly terrified. Hey there, little one, Miller whispered, extending her hand slowly. The room fell silent as everyone realized what was happening. The Drakari commander hissed in alarm, but couldn't move without revealing the creature. Miller gently stroked the small animal's head. To everyone's surprise, It stopped trembling and made a soft musical sound, almost like singing. The creature's fur changed from frightened gray to a peaceful blue, and it crawled toward Miller. "Stop!" the Drakari commander shouted, but it was too late. The little creature jumped into Miller's arms and nuzzled against her chest. Its singing grew louder, filling the room with sweet notes that somehow conveyed emotions directly to everyone present. Feelings of fear, relief, and gratitude washed over them. Ambassador Zrektai's compound eyes widened. "This is a juvenile Morzat." He turned to the Drakari, an endangered empathic species protected by galactic law. The commander's feathers flattened against his body. "It is contraband being transported legally." "Legally?" Captain Sanders stood up. "It was hiding under your chair," terrified. The Morzat's song changed, conveying images and emotions to everyone in the room. They saw flashes of a cage, other frightened Morzat, and the Drakari selling them to wealthy collectors. The Alliance security team that had been waiting outside rushed in, alerted by Zrektai's silent alarm. "Detain them," the ambassador ordered. "The Morzat's empathic testimony is admissible evidence under Alliance law." As the Drakari were led away, Miller continued to stroke the small creature, which had curled contentedly in her arms. "How did you know it was there?" Sanders asked. Miller shrugged. "I didn't. I just saw something small and scared that needed comfort." Ambassador Zrektai studied the human with new respect. "It seems your species' habit of petting things has revealed a serious crime. The Alliance Council will want to hear about this." The Morzat purred against Miller's chest, its fur now glowing with a soft pink light that somehow felt like joy. Rodriguez was drawn to a stall displaying what appeared to be pets. The creatures came in all shapes and sizes. Some had fur, others scales, and a few seemed to be made of something like living crystal. "Are these animals for sale?" she asked the stall owner, a furry being with 4 eyes. "Indeed, honored human. These are companion creatures from many worlds." Rodriguez couldn't help herself. She reached out and gently stroked a small 6-legged creature with soft blue fur. The animal made a trilling sound and leaned into her touch. "It likes you," the merchant said, surprised. Sherik pups usually take time to warm up to strangers. Rodriguez smiled and continued petting the creature. "It's so soft." She didn't notice the crowd of aliens gathering to watch her. They whispered among themselves, pointing at how freely she touched the animals and how the creatures responded positively to her. A Valerian scientist in the crowd clicked its mandibles rapidly. "Document this behavior. The human female touches unknown species without hesitation or fear." "More importantly," added a Dorian observer, "the animals respond well. See how they lean toward her hand." News of Rodriguez's visit to the pet merchant spread quickly. By evening, the Alliance Council had received multiple reports about human touching behavior. Some found it alarming, others fascinating. In their private meeting room, the council members discussed the strange humans. "They touch everything," said the Valerian representative. "Their machines, our station walls, alien species, even each other's head fur." "Perhaps," suggested the Lorvian council member, "there is something we are missing about the importance of touch." The U.S. horizon approached the massive space station known as Convergence. Through the main viewport, the humans stared in awe. The station looked like a giant metal flower blooming in space, with curved petals extending from a central hub. Ships of various shapes and sizes moved around it like busy bees. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Olivia Martinez as she pressed her hand against the cool glass of the viewport. Captain Sanders nodded. "Home to the Galactic Alliance headquarters and apparently representatives from 27 different species." The ship's communication system crackled. "U.S. Horizon, you are cleared for docking at Bay 17. Welcome to Convergence." Engineer Kyle Johnson worked with the ship's computer to guide them to the assigned bay. The docking clamps secured with a gentle thud that vibrated through the hull. "Remember," Captain Sanders addressed his crew, We are the first humans many of these beings have ever seen. Let's make a good impression. Dr. Martinez led the diplomatic team that would represent Earth. With her were Lieutenant Natalie Wright, Engineer Johnson, and Commander Garcia. As the airlock doors slid open, they were greeted by a delegation of aliens, a Valerian they recognized from their first contact on Proxima Centauri stepped forward. "Welcome to Convergence. I am Ambassador Recti. These are representatives from some of our member species." Zrektai introduced the others, a blue-skinned humanoid with 4 arms called a Dorian, a short, squat being covered in scales known as a Zaxian, and a tall, furry creature that resembled a walking sloth, a Lorvian. "We have prepared quarters for your stay," the Valerian said. "Tomorrow you will meet the Alliance Council." As they walked through the station's wide corridors, the humans tried not to stare at the incredible variety of alien life forms bustling about. Some floated instead of walked. Others had tentacles or wings or both. The air was filled with strange sounds and smells. The group paused at a junction where a Valerian engineer was explaining some technical details about the station's life support systems to Ambassadors Recti. Engineer Johnson became engrossed in the conversation, fascinated by the advanced technology. As they talked, a tall Lorvian passed by, its long fur swaying with each slow step. Without thinking, Johnson reached out and stroked the passing alien's arm, absent-mindedly feeling the texture of its fur while discussing oxygen reclamation systems. The Lorvian froze mid-step. The Valerian's mandibles clicked rapidly. The Dorian representative's 4 hands all covered its mouth in shock. Johnson realized what he had done and pulled his hand back quickly. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean." The Lorvian turned slowly to face him. Its large eyes blinked several times. "You touched me." Dr. Martinez stepped forward, ready to smooth over the diplomatic incident. "Please forgive our engineer. Humans sometimes touch things without thinking, especially textures that are new to us. It was not meant as disrespect." The room was silent for a long moment. Then the Lorvian made a rumbling sound deep in its throat. "It was not unpleasant," the alien finally said. "No one has ever touched my fur except other Lorvians during grooming rituals." The tension in the room eased slightly, but the alien delegates exchanged meaningful glances. Later that evening, in their private quarters, Dr. Martinez called a meeting. "We need to be more careful," she said. "Most of these species don't share our comfort with physical contact." "I'm really sorry," Johnson said. "I wasn't thinking. The fur just looked so soft." Natalie Wright laughed. "Humans will pet anything, won't we? If it's fluffy, scaly, or has an interesting texture, we just can't help ourselves." What they didn't know was that their conversation was being monitored. In another room, Alliance scientists watched with fascination. "Did you see how the human touched Delegate Morlock without permission?" asked a Zaxian scientist. "And the Lorvian didn't mind," added a Dorian observer. "This requires further study." Ambassador Zrektai clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Humans are strange. They seek physical connection with everything around them. We must learn more about this behavior." The next morning, as the humans prepared to meet the Alliance Council, they didn't realize they had become the subjects of intense observation. Their simple habit of touching things was about to shake the foundations of galactic diplomacy. The stars glittered like diamonds against the black canvas of space as the U.S. horizon approached Proxima Centauri B. Lieutenant Natalie Wright pressed her face against the observation window, her heart racing with excitement. After 3 years of space travel, they were about to make first contact with an alien civilization. "Ready for the landing party, Lieutenant?" Commander Ryan Garcia asked, adjusting his uniform. Natalie nodded and grabbed her field kit. As the ship's lead xenobiologist, she had trained for this moment her entire career. "Ready as I'll ever be, sir." 5 crew members gathered in the shuttle bay. Besides Natalie and Commander Garcia, there was Security Officer Heather Rodriguez, Engineer Kyle Johnson, and Dr. Olivia Martinez, their cultural anthropologist. The small team boarded the shuttle and descended through the planet's atmosphere. The alien world had a sky tinged with orange and vast fields of purple vegetation that swayed in the gentle breeze. The shuttle landed in a clearing where sensors had detected a settlement. "Remember," Commander Garcia said as they prepared to exit, "we follow first contact protocols. No sudden movements. Maintain distance until invited closer, and for heaven's sake, keep your hands to yourselves." The team stepped onto the alien soil. Natalie's instruments immediately began collecting data on the atmosphere, confirming it was safe to remove their helmets. The air smelled like cinnamon and copper. They didn't have to wait long. From the edge of the purple forest emerged tall figures with glistening exoskeletons. The aliens had 6 limbs, compound eyes, and moved with a grace that belied their insect-like appearance. "The Valerians," Natalie whispered in awe. The team had studied the limited long-range scans, but seeing them in person was different. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall, their chitinous bodies reflecting the sunlight in iridescent blues and greens. One Valerian stepped forward. Its mandibles clicked in what seemed to be a pattern. Dr. Martinez activated the universal translator. After a moment of processing, a mechanical voice said, "We welcome the star travelers to Valeria." Commander Garcia stepped forward with a smile. "We come in peace from planet Earth. We are honored to meet you." He extended his hand in the universal human gesture of greeting. The Valerian leader recoiled, its limbs raising in what looked like a defensive posture. Other Valerians moved forward, chittering loudly. "Commander," Dr. Martinez said urgently, "I think we have a problem." The translator struggled to keep up with the rapid Valerian speech, but phrases like physical aggression and mating gesture came through clearly. Garcia immediately lowered his hand. "My apologies. I've offered a human greeting gesture. It means friendship, not aggression." The Valerians conferred among themselves, their antennae twitching rapidly. Finally, the leader approached again. "Your kind touches, for friendship," the translator conveyed, the alien's confusion evident even through the mechanical voice. Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "Yes, humans are a tactile species. We use touch to communicate many things. Friendship, comfort, affection." This seemed to fascinate the Valerians. Their leader explained that in their culture, physical contact was reserved only for mating or combat. The very idea of touching another being in casual greeting was deeply foreign to them. For the next few hours, the human team carefully explained Earth customs while learning Valerian ways. The initial tension slowly dissolved into curious exchange. As the twin suns of Proxima Centauri began to set, painting the sky in brilliant red, the Valerian leader made an announcement. "The High Council has decided. We wish to invite humans to join the Galactic Alliance, a coalition of 27 spacefaring species who share knowledge and resources." The human team exchanged excited glances. This was more than they had hoped for. "There is much to learn from each other," the Valerian continued, "though your touching customs will require adjustment for many species." Commander Garcia smiled. "We are honored by the invitation and accept with gratitude. And we promise to keep our hands to ourselves until we better understand everyone's boundaries." As they prepared to return to the ship to relay the news, the Valerian leader extended a limb toward Garcia in a careful imitation of a handshake. The commander gently took the offered appendage. "A small step toward understanding," the alien said. Natalie Wright recorded the moment in her log. First contact had been successful, despite the cultural misunderstanding. Little did the humans know that their simple habit of touching things was about to cause quite a stir across the galaxy.